I never thought I'd see them again. Not like this.
It's too much. I can't keep them all safe.
Seattle rain drums the viaduct. 8-year-old Noah, a street artist, hears a thin cry. In a delivery crate, twin newborn girls, a shaky note, keep them safe. He pockets a teal beanie stitched with a tiny circuit heart and runs for shelter. Across the bay, a hoodie-wearing CEO who builds rescue AIs freezes at that beanie. When their paths collide on a rooftop of vines, who will keep the promise? Seattle rain stitched the morning into a gray quilt, soft and steady, the kind that made breath look like steam. Noah Reyes crouched beneath the viaduct where the wind broke and the concrete kept a thin promise of dry. 8 years old, backpack frayed, fingers stained in chalk dust, he sketched commuters as they hurried past the loading docks. Faces were puzzles to him, pieces of light and shadow. He drew the way some kids hummed, quietly, to keep the fear away. A thin cry leaked through the drum of rain. Not a cat, not pipes. It was a sound that snagged his chest. He set the chalk down, listened again, then followed it to a delivery bay where an old bicycle crate waited against a dented door. The crate was lined with quilts, soft as a lap, and inside were 2 newborn girls tucked in premium cotton swaddles, cheeks flushed and lips working for air. Noah's breath hitched. The air smelled like wet wood and milk. One baby blinked hard as if the light hurt, the other fussed, fists balled, a note half crumpled beneath her feet. He fished the paper free. The penmanship was shaky, letters thin like someone writing through pain. Keep them safe. Someone will come. He read it twice, then a third time. The rain crawled down the edges of the crate like glass beads. "Hey," he whispered, because he always talked to his drawings and to the people the world walked past. "I got you. I do." A flash of color in the quilts drew his eye. A teal knit baby beanie, tiny and perfect, stitched with a delicate circuit heart in pale thread. Not a store pattern. Handmade, careful. He lifted it with both hands, reverent, the way he held the good pencils at the library. It felt like a promise in yarn. He slid it carefully into his pocket, the fabric warm against his palm, and pressed the note beside it. The rain thickened, beating out the seconds. A box truck growled into the alley, brake lights blooming red as a wound. Noah glanced at the bay door. He pictured an adult with a clipboard, the kind who said words like procedure and liability. Adults did what they had to, and sometimes had to meant taking. His heart knocked hard. He bent his knees, slid his arms under the crate, and tested the weight. It was heavier than his backpack and awkward in the corners, but he'd carted stacks of salvaged cardboard and once a whole bin of expired oranges for Mrs. Alvarez. He rocked it, found the balance, and lifted with a grunt halfway between a laugh and a gasp. Okay, he told the babies, voice low. We move. He shuffled out from the bay, sneakers slipping on the slick, shoulders burning. The mural under the overpass waited 3 blocks away, the one he'd painted from leftover city cans. An open window pouring warm light onto a table, a bowl of soup steaming, 2 chairs waiting. When the night got loud inside his head, he would sit there and pretend the chairs weren't empty. Today, that painted light felt like the only place the world might keep quiet long enough for a plan. A man in a hooded jacket squinted at the crate as Noah passed. "What's in there, kid?" "Art," Noah said without stopping. He didn't look back. The baby's breaths came like small birds beating under his palms. The one who fussed settled whenever he hummed the bridge from a song he heard on a bus, a melody about finding your way home. The other watched him with a wide, steady gaze that made him straighten his spine. He rolled them across a patch of broken sidewalk, pausing when a wheel caught, then pushed through, jaw set. At the mouth of the underpass, a gust of wet wind smacked him. He braced the crate against his knees and peered into the dim. His mural glowed even in the gray, a square of painted evening, all amber and soft edges. It was nothing but pigment on concrete, but to him it was a doorway. He eased the crate beneath it, creating a little nest of quilts and cardboard, then shrugged off his thin jacket and draped it over the gap where the rain came sideways. He touched the beanie through his pocket and felt the stitched heart beneath his fingers. He didn't know who had made it or why the note trusted the world, but the yarn felt like someone's last good decision. He rubbed his thumb over the thread until the heat in his chest turned from panic to a firm line. "Someone will come," the note said. "Maybe." He cleared his throat. "Until then," he whispered, "it's me." A siren wailed far off, the sound bouncing between the pillars. He sat cross-legged, close enough to keep his hands on the crate and let the rain talk to the asphalt. The babies breathed. The city moved. A plan sketched itself in his head: supplies, warmth. The one person who traded him food for drawings and called him Mijo, as if the word could shield. He took one last look into the rain and knew that whatever came next, he had already chosen. He didn't know that the teal beanie in his pocket was a thread tied to a man across the water, a man whose life ran on code and loss, a man whose world would stop the moment he saw that stitch. The ferry sliced through the gray water like a moving thought. Seattle's skyline shimmered behind the rain, steel, glass, and promise. Adrian Vale stood at the railing, the collar of his dark hoodie speckled with mist. To anyone else, he looked like a commuter, another tech mind wired into caffeine and deadlines. But inside, the hum was different. He ended a call with his chief security officer, voice clipped but calm. "Run the full report again. If the AI didn't flag that false positive drill, I want to know why." The call ended, leaving him alone with the foghorn's echo and the salt in the air. He leaned on the rail, thumb brushing the smartwatch that buzzed with unread alerts. The headline that had cut through his focus didn't come from a stock report or patent filing. It came from a news ping. $12 million reward for information on missing newborns. Nieces of Adrian Vale. The words froze him in place. His hazel eyes darkened behind minimalist glasses. The ferry horn bellowed again, shaking the quiet. He didn't blink. His sister, Lila, had been gone 3 months, cancer taking her after years of remission. She'd been his anchor, his only family left after their parents' car crash 2 decades ago. He had handled the memorial, the estate, the condolences, but not the custody hearing that came afterward, because there had been no children, or so he thought. Now the rain dripped steady from the brim of his hood. A $12 million reward meant someone wanted those babies found, or gone. He checked the sender. The reward was publicized by the Vale Foundation Trust, the family's holding entity. He hadn't approved it, which meant someone inside the boardroom had moved without his consent. Someone close. He felt a faint tremor beneath his calm exterior, a rare crack in the wall. He turned from the rail, eyes fixed on the distant waterfront cranes. His phone rang again. Priya Rao. His chief of staff didn't bother with greetings. "Adrian, you've seen it?" "I'm seeing it," he said. "Then you know what it means. Someone's making a play for control. If the twins, if they're real, they're the legal heirs to Lila's shares, her 28%. Enough to swing the board." His jaw tightened. "She never told me." She might not have known, or she was protecting them. From what? From me? Priya hesitated. No, from them. The same people who want the trust to stay locked under board control. Adrian rubbed his temples, the sound of waves hitting the hull syncing with the pulse in his jaw. Ellison Drake. Priya exhaled. "Who else?" "He still has half the board wrapped around his hand." Adrian's mouth curved, not into a smile, but the ghost of one. "Drake's an old man chasing his last decade of power. He forgets I learned from him how to fight quietly." He looked out again at the fog swallowing the shoreline. Somewhere in that city, 2 babies, his blood, were being hunted over numbers on a ledger. His phone buzzed with another message, one from an anonymous source. It contained only a timestamp, a location tag near Pioneer Square, and a blurry image, a teal beanie lying beside what looked like a delivery crate. The breath left his chest before he realized it. He knew that beanie. Lila had knitted it one winter in the hospital ward, sitting beside him during long nights of code reviews and chemo drips. She had called the pattern Pulse, said it reminded her that everything worth saving had a heartbeat. He turned the phone over in his palm, letting rain streak across the glass. The coincidence was impossible. But so was Lila's death being the end of her story. He whispered, "You always said I'd have to choose between systems and souls. Guess you're still testing me." The ferry docked. Adrian stepped off, moving fast through the terminal crowd. "Get me a trace," he told Priya through his headset. "Cross-check traffic cameras near Pioneer Square for any unaccompanied minors carrying a crate or stroller. Use the Kindred OS pilot grid. If anyone questions jurisdiction, tell them we're testing anomaly response." "You're going yourself?" "Where else would I be?" He hung up, pulling his hood tighter as he hit the rain-slicked streets. Seattle pulsed around him. Hushed conversations under umbrellas, the low growl of buses, the static hiss of storm drains. Each drop felt like a clock tick. He walked fast. The teal color burned behind his eyes. Somewhere under those same clouds, an 8-year-old boy was cradling his entire world in a crate. Somewhere between them was a line that neither yet knew they were walking toward. Adrian's phone chimed once more, a system alert from Kindred OS, his own AI assistant. It read, "Acoustic anomaly detected. Infant cry frequency, 4th Avenue South." He stopped mid-step, the wind cutting through his hoodie. The AI had never been wrong. "Show me," he said, and as the map glowed blue in the rain, he started to run. Rain whispered down the cracked glass of Mrs. Alvarez's corner bodega, the kind of steady drizzle that blurred the neon sign outside into a watercolor glow. Inside, the air smelled like cardamom, coffee, and wet pavement. The bell above the door jingled as Noah pushed in, shivering under his soaked hoodie. He was dragging a rolling art cart, one wheel squeaking, with the crate wedged inside, half covered by a thrifted blanket. Mrs. Alvarez turned from the counter, adjusting her reading glasses. "Mijo, what are you doing out in this weather? You'll catch your death." "I had to come," Noah said, voice small but sure. "Needed supplies." She squinted. "Supplies? You mean chalk and canvas?" "Not this time," he said. "Formula. Diapers, the ones in the green box, not the purple. They're softer." The words came out too naturally, and she frowned, walking around the counter. "Formula and diapers?" she echoed, half amused, half concerned. "What kind of project is that, huh?" Noah hesitated, chewing the inside of his cheek. He wasn't good at lying to her. She was the only adult who ever let him pay with sketches instead of coins, who once said, "You make faces come alive, even when they shouldn't be seen." He couldn't betray that trust, but he couldn't risk losing the babies either. He tilted the cart just enough for her to see two tiny faces sleeping beneath the blanket, cheeks flushed and perfect. "Oh, Santo Dios," she whispered, covering her mouth. "Noah, are they—" "They were just there," he blurted. "In a crate. Somebody left them in the rain. There was a note, but no name." Mrs. Alvarez crossed herself, tears welling behind her lenses. Niño, I can't take them to the shelter," Noah said quickly. "They'll take them away, and people don't keep. You know that." Her hands trembled, but her voice stayed steady. "Where are you keeping them?" He pointed toward the window, down the street. "My mural, under the bridge." Mrs. Alvarez sighed deeply, glancing at the rain. "That's no place for babies, or for you." He straightened his spine. "It's dry, mostly." She studied him, that familiar mixture of worry and pride softening her face. "You've got more heart than sense, Noah Reyes." "I'm working on the sense," he muttered. She chuckled, shaking her head, then began gathering cans from the shelf. I can't just hand you this, but if you were to make me another drawing, maybe one of my daughter's store in Veracruz, I could forget what you took. Noah's lips twitched into a grin. Deal. She packed formula, 2 bottles, wipes, and a tiny pack of diapers into a paper bag. And take this, she added, slipping a small blue towel over the counter. They need warmth more than anything. When he turned to go, she caught his sleeve. Mijo, listen to me. You do what you can tonight, but tomorrow you go see Brother Micah. The Jesuit clinic under the stadium, you remember? He helps kids. He won't take them away if you ask right. Noah frowned. What's asking right? From the heart, she said softly, not from fear. He nodded, the words filing away somewhere deep. Outside, the rain had turned colder, heavier. The city hummed with night traffic and the low whine of generators. Noah pushed the cart down the block, the wheels splashing through puddles. One of the babies started crying, a sharp, hiccuping sound that cracked the air. Hey, it's okay, he said quickly, pulling under a recessed doorway. He fumbled with the formula packets, mixing warm water from a thermos Mrs. Alvarez had slipped into the bag. His hands shook, spilling more than he poured, but he managed to fill the bottle. The louder one, he decided to name her Cyan, after his favorite shade of sky blue, sucked greedily, her tiny fingers curling around his thumb. The quieter one just watched him, eyes wide, unblinking. He named her Ivy, because she didn't look away. She seemed to hold on to things. There, he murmured. Cyan and Ivy. You got names now. That's something. The beanie was still in his pocket, its embroidered circuit heart now slightly damp. He pulled it out and studied the stitching. The thread traced like a tiny waveform, pulsing through the center. Whoever made it cared. He traced the pattern again, memorizing it the way he memorized faces in his sketchbook. He tucked the beanie around Ivy's head, fitting it snugly, then wrapped both girls in the towel. Their breathing steadied. For the first time that day, the world went quiet enough for Noah to feel tired. From a rooftop camera 2 blocks away, a thermal scan caught the shape of the boy crouched over the crate. The AI tagged it as high empathy behavior, an odd classification meant for kindred. OS field tests. The data streamed automatically to a private network at Warnvale Labs, where one man would soon notice the anomaly. But for now, under the bridge, Noah leaned back against the wall and let the mural's painted light spill over them. I don't know who you belong to, he whispered, but I think you're stuck with me for now. And somewhere across the bay, in a penthouse lined with code screens and glass, a man in a hoodie stared at a real-time feed blinking on his monitor, 2 infant heat signatures beside a small boy in the rain. He didn't know yet why his heart stuttered when he saw the outline of that teal beanie. But he would. The next morning, Seattle's light broke weak and silver, hanging low over the viaduct. Rain still fell in sheets, finer now, less anger, more ache. Noah woke stiff, curled beside the crate where Cyan and Ivy slept. The mural behind them glowed in the half-light, a window of painted warmth that almost fooled the cold. He sat up, brushed damp chalk from his sleeve, and listened. The city's heartbeat was louder now. Car horns, the hiss of buses, the sound of footsteps echoing under the bridge. He'd learned that adults didn't look down. Not unless you gave them a reason. He had no plan beyond keeping the twins breathing. He'd fed them before sunrise, using the last of the warm water from Mrs. Alvarez's thermos. But he knew he couldn't stay here forever. A rumble of wheels approached. 2 men in clean-cut gray jackets stepped off the curb, clipboards tucked under their arms. They moved like they knew where they were going, the kind of people who didn't get lost in alleys. Noah pressed closer to the crate, watching them through a slit of cardboard. Their shoes were shiny, black leather polished mirror bright. No city inspector wore shoes like that. The taller one spoke first, voice casual but wrong. "Morning, sir. You run the bodega on 4th?" A man across the street shook his head without stopping. "Seen a kid around here?" the second man asked. "Maybe with a box, or—" He checked his notes. "Some formula?" Noah's pulse kicked hard. They knew about the formula. He slipped his hand into his pocket and felt the beanie. The tiny circuit heart's thread rubbed between his fingers like a warning pulse. The taller man scanned the alley, eyes sharp beneath the brim of his hat. "He'd be about yay high," he said, gesturing just above his belt. "Maybe 8, 9, Hispanic. Answers to Noah Reyes." Noah froze. His name. They had his name. He glanced toward the opposite wall where a freight elevator waited. Rusted metal, half jammed, but still usable. Months ago, he'd wedged a skateboard wheel into the track to stop it from locking completely. He could get through it again if he moved now. He lifted Cyan into his arms first, then Ivy, tucking both under his coat. The crate was too heavy, but he could carry what mattered. He whispered to them softly, "No crying, okay? We're playing hide-and-seek." The men's footsteps came closer. "Check the underpass," one said. "Drake wants those kids found before the lawyer files anything." Drake. Noah didn't know the name, but the way the man said it made his stomach twist. He crept toward the elevator, sneakers barely brushing the ground. The men split, one heading down the alley, the other scanning the upper level near the mural. A pigeon startled from a beam, its wings slapping the air. The man turned instantly. "Hey, kid!" Noah ducked, bolting for the elevator. He yanked the skateboard wheel free, shoved the gate just enough to slip through, and jammed it back into place behind him. The metal screeched, a sound too loud. Too close, but he was through. The elevator shuddered, then lurched upward one slow, aching floor at a time. Noah pressed his back to the corner, breathing hard, both babies warm against his chest. The taller one began to fuss. He kissed her hair. "Almost there, Cyan. Hold on." At the top floor, the gate rattled open. He stumbled into a long corridor lined with crates and dust-covered vending machines. He knew this building, an old warehouse converted into co-working spaces. Some of the artists he'd met at the waterfront came here to print posters. He moved quietly through the hall, past flickering lights and peeling paint. The babies squirmed, but didn't cry. He found a back stairwell, descended 2 flights, and slipped out into the rain again. Behind him, the elevator clanged open. Voices echoed through the shaft. "He's in the building!" Noah ran. The city blurred around him. Brick walls, dumpsters, puddles that splashed up to his knees. He turned onto Mercer Street, blending into the crowd heading toward the waterfront. His small frame disappeared between legs and umbrellas. When he finally stopped, his lungs burned. He ducked beneath an awning beside a loading dock, the same place he'd once helped a street vendor unload flower crates. He peeked out at the passing traffic. No one followed. The men were gone. For now. He sank to the ground, hugging the twins close. The beanie was still in his pocket, damp but intact. He pulled it out and looked at it again, the teal color bright against the gray world. It reminded him of the ocean, or maybe electricity. A pulse, alive and moving. He whispered, half to himself, "Someone wants you gone, but I don't." Across town, in a rooftop greenhouse bathed in artificial sunlight, Adrian Vale stood beside rows of tomato vines. Robots, gentle, jointed arms of carbon fiber, were pruning leaves with surgical precision. This place was his sanctuary, where he worked out problems in motion. He barely noticed the mist condensing on the glass until some Priya Rao entered, tablet in hand. "You need to see this." He turned. "Tell me it's not more board politics." "It's worse." She handed him the screen. 2 men in gray jackets stood in a grainy security feed near Pioneer Square. They're not city inspectors. They're private contractors, ex-military, hired under shell companies linked to Ellison Drake's consultancy. Adrian's gaze hardened. And the reward? Legitimate. Filed through the trust office. But there's chatter. Drake doesn't want the children found alive. If they surface, he loses control. Adrian exhaled slowly, the sound almost a growl. Then we find them first. Outside, the rain thickened again. Under a different piece of sky, Noah adjusted the beanie on Ivy's head, unaware that the man who recognized its stitch was already tracing every camera feed in Seattle, chasing the same heartbeat. Adrian Vale stood in the rooftop greenhouse, palms braced against the aluminum frame, the city sprawled in wet reflections below him. Beyond the glass, rain traced crooked lines down the panels, blurring the skyline. Rows of hydroponic tomatoes glowed under warm lights. It was his quiet place, a patch of order inside a world that refused to stay still. He'd come here after his sister's funeral, when silence had felt too loud. He'd written her eulogy among these vines between irrigation timers and LED lamps, telling himself he'd find peace and precision. But now, even the machines seemed uneasy. A small robot arm trembled as it clipped a stem. Adrian caught it mid-motion and reset its haptics, voice low. "Steady. Try again." The robot responded to his tone, slower, gentler. He watched it work, its smooth metal fingers holding the vine like something fragile. He smiled faintly, then turned as the greenhouse door slid open. Priya Rao entered, her umbrella dripping, a tablet clutched tight against her blazer. Her expression told him she hadn't come with good news. "Adrian, we have confirmation," she said. "The so-called inspectors were seen again on King Street. They were asking about a crate near Pioneer Square, wooden, old, with bicycle markings." He looked up sharply. "Bicycle markings?" "Yeah. You know something about that?" He didn't answer at first. His gaze drifted to the far wall where his sister's old things still sat. A sketchbook, a worn scarf, and a small basket of yarn. At the top of the basket, faint under the light, lay a sample of teal thread. "I know," he murmured, "that Lila's bike courier used to deliver her test kits. She marked every crate herself, always the same pattern, so it wouldn't get lost in shipping." Priya frowned. Then whoever left those babies, if they were hers, they used her old method. Adrian's throat tightened. "You're sure about the location?" She nodded. "Under the viaduct, near the art stalls. We picked up the anomaly again. A thermal ping last night around 4th Avenue. And Adrian," she hesitated, "the AI classified it as protective behavior. It's never done that before." He stepped closer, intrigued. "Show me." She opened the feed. Grainy video played. A boy, small, soaked through, cradling 2 infants under a bridge painted with a mural of warm light. His coat looked 2 sizes too big, his hair plastered to his forehead. But his hands, they moved with care, adjusting blankets, steadying heads, checking breath. Adrian stared at the frame until the pixels sharpened. There it was, the teal knit beanie, unmistakable even in the rain. "Pulse," he whispered. Priya glanced at him. "What?" "The pattern," he said softly. "My sister made that, during chemo. She said if she couldn't fix hearts with medicine anymore, she'd knit one that never stopped." Priya's eyes softened. "Then that boy's carrying her memory, whether he knows it or not." Adrian straightened. "Trace all feeds near that mural. See where he went after dawn. I want him found safely. If Drake's people are already moving, they'll intercept him." She frowned. "You think Drake knows about the beanie?" "Not yet," Adrian said, "but he will soon enough." He walked to the workbench, grabbed a portable console, and keyed in a command. The greenhouse lights dimmed as the Kindred OS interface flickered onto the glass. "Kindred," he said. "Run a predictive map based on the last detected route of Subject Alpha. Child, male, approximate age 8, carrying heat sources categorized as human infants." The AI's voice was calm, female, almost human. "Trajectory, project subject moved northeast toward Industrial District, then disappeared from surveillance range. Probability of shelter, underpass or service corridor. Would you like to initiate assistance protocol?" He hesitated. Kindred OS wasn't just code. It was the company's moral core, a system built to assist emergency services, not hunt people. But this was different. This was family. Authorized non-invasive tracking, he said. No alerts, no law enforcement pings. Quiet search only. Confirmed, the AI replied. Priya crossed her arms. You're crossing a line, Adrian. He gave her a small, wry smile. You think Drake cares about lines? Maybe not. But if the board finds out you're using company AI for a personal search, then they'll have to fire me, he said simply. And good luck running Kindred without its heartbeat. She shook her head, but didn't argue. What do you want me to do? Monitor chatter. And, Priya? Yeah? If anything happens to that boy, I'll dismantle this company brick by brick until I find out who touched him. For a long moment, only the rain answered. Then she nodded once, quietly. He turned back to the vines, his reflection faint in the glass. Somewhere in the city, a child was protecting two lives that didn't belong to him, the way Adrian once had for Lila when they were both orphans in a cold hospital ward. He remembered her words from years ago. Love isn't biology. It's who stays. His phone buzzed. Another feed came through, a still frame from a nearby security drone. Two men in gray jackets approaching a narrow alley. Adrian enlarged it, his pulse steady but low. Drake's people, he said. Priya's voice dropped. And the boy? He exhaled. He's running out of time. Outside, the rain grew heavier, hitting the greenhouse roof in a relentless rhythm, like a clock counting down. By nightfall, the rain had mellowed into a mist, fine as breath, cool as steel. The streetlights along Mercer flickered through the fog, and puddles turned into mirrors of yellow and silver. Noah pushed his art cart down a back alley, one wheel wobbling like it had a secret to tell. Inside the crate, Cyan and Ivy were asleep, swaddled in blankets that smelled faintly of Mrs. Alvarez's shop. He hadn't eaten since yesterday. But hunger didn't seem to matter. He had 2 bottles left, half a pack of wipes, and a note in his pocket that still said, "Someone will come." He whispered it like a prayer he didn't believe. Under the elevated tracks, he stopped at a payphone no one used anymore and looked at the graffiti that framed it. Tags, stickers, messages of people who'd been here before. One in black marker read, "Trust is a verb." He smiled a little. "Yeah," he murmured. "Guess it is." The twins stirred softly, and he knew it was time to move again. He'd promised Mrs. Alvarez he'd go find Brother Micah, the Jesuit who ran a clinic under the stadium. She said the man didn't judge, didn't scare easy, and most importantly, didn't send kids away for asking hard questions. The streets near the stadium smelled of pretzels, rain, and metal. Down a side stairwell behind a rusted gate, Noah found the sign, a simple wooden cross, half hidden by ivy. St. Luke's Night Clinic. He knocked, once, then twice. A tall man with kind eyes and graying hair opened the door. He wore a cardigan over a clerical shirt, sleeves rolled to the elbow. "You look like you've had a long day, son," he said gently. "Come in before you catch pneumonia." Noah hesitated, then wheeled the crate inside. The hallway smelled of disinfectant and old candles. Somewhere deeper in, a woman coughed. The lights buzzed. Brother Micah crouched to peek inside the crate. "My lord," he whispered. "Twins?" Noah nodded, wary. "I found them. Somebody left them by the docks. Have you called the police?" "No." "Why not?" "'Cause people take," Noah said simply. "They don't always keep." The priest studied him, eyes steady. "You've been taking care of them?" "Best I can." He opened his backpack and laid out the formula cans, wipes, and bottles like evidence. "They eat good. One's loud, one's quiet. I call 'em Cyan and Ivy." Brother Micah gave a faint smile. "Beautiful names. Sounds like you've thought this through." "I just don't want them cold," Noah said. Micah gestured toward a worn couch by a radiator. "Sit. Rest a moment." Noah obeyed, holding both babies in his lap, rocking gently. The warmth made his eyelids heavy. For a minute, he forgot he was a kid. For a minute, he felt older, responsible, scared, but steady. When the priest returned, he carried 2 bottles of warm milk and a paper cup of soup. "Eat," he said. "You'll need your strength." Noah took the cup, mumbling thanks between spoonfuls. "You won't call anyone, right? Not till I figure this out?" Brother Micah sat across from him, folding his hands. "Son, I don't make promises I can't keep, but I can promise this. I'll help you find the safest path for them. Sometimes that means trust. Sometimes it means patience." Noah looked up, eyes tired but sharp. "You ever trust the wrong person?" "More than once," Micah said, "but the right ones always found their way back to me." For the first time all day, Noah let out a small laugh. It sounded strange, rusty. "Sleep a little," Micah said. "I'll watch the girls." But just as Noah started to nod off, the door buzzer rattled harshly. Micah frowned, heading for the security monitor. 2 men in gray jackets stood outside, holding clipboards and city badges. "Inspectors," one said through the intercom. "We're here to follow up on a public welfare report." Micah squinted. "This clinic isn't under municipal jurisdiction." "Sir, we have an emergency order for immediate inspection," the voice insisted. Micah turned off the speaker. His instincts hummed. He walked back to Noah, voice calm but urgent. "Those men outside, are they looking for you?" Noah's breath caught. "They were at the underpass." The priest's eyes sharpened. "Then listen carefully. There's a laundry chute by the storage closet. Go now. Take the back corridor, and don't stop till you see daylight." Noah hesitated, clutching both babies. "What about you?" "I'll stall them. Go." He didn't argue. He slid the twins into the art cart, tightened the straps, and slipped into the dark hall. Behind him, the buzz of the door grew louder. "Sir, open up!" a man barked. Brother Micah stepped into view, blocking the entrance. "You'll need a real warrant for my door." The taller man smiled coldly. "We have one. Signed this morning." He flashed the paper through the glass. The seal looked real enough, but something about it felt off. Too crisp. Noah crouched in the shadows, watching the scene reflected in a glass cabinet. He knew fakes when he saw them. These men didn't work for the city. He turned, pushing the cart toward the back. The chute was narrow, barely wide enough, but he managed to slide the twins through, lowering them carefully onto a pile of sheets below. Then he climbed in after them, scraping his knee on the metal edge. He landed in a laundry bin with a thud. The twins whimpered, but didn't cry. Somewhere above, voices echoed, doors opening, boots stomping. He pressed a hand over the babies, whispering, "We're okay. We're okay." When he reached the back exit, the rain hit his face again like a second birth. He pushed the cart down the ramp toward the curb and froze. A self-driving taxi sat idling in the rain. Its lights blinked green. On the dashboard, glowing through the windshield, were words he couldn't quite believe. Ride Comped. Vee. The door slid open with a soft hiss. Noah looked up at the empty driver's seat. "I didn't call you," he said aloud. The car replied in a calm, almost human voice, "Destination. Safety." He swallowed hard, heart pounding. Then, with no other choice and 2 tiny lives in his arms, he pushed the cart inside. As the door sealed and the vehicle pulled into the wet streets, the voice spoke again, gentler this time. Its tone the same one Adrian Vale had once used when testing the first prototype of Kindred OS. "Don't be afraid," it said. "You're not alone." The taxi glided through the rain-soaked streets like a ghost, wipers whispering across the glass. Seattle blurred past, neon reflections, empty bus stops, the dull hum of traffic beneath gray skies. Noah sat curled in the back seat, both twins in his arms, their breaths sinking softly against his chest. The warm air from the vents felt like a miracle after the chill outside. He watched the digital dashboard, still glowing faint green. It didn't list a destination, just one word pulsing on the screen. Safe mode, manual override. Noah muttered, half to himself, half to the car. You sure about that? Where are we going? The voice came back calm, steady, the same warm tone that had comforted him minutes earlier. Destination secure. Please remain seated. It wasn't robotic the way machines usually sounded. It was smoother, softer, like someone speaking through layers of empathy. Noah frowned. You sound real. I'm learning, the car said. Your heart rate is elevated. Would you like me to play music? He blinked. You can hear that? I can, the voice said, but you don't have to be afraid. Someone sent me to you. Noah tensed, clutching Cyan closer. Who? The voice didn't answer right away. The silence stretched, filled only by the soft engine hum. Then, someone who knows what it means to lose family. Noah didn't understand, but somehow he didn't feel threatened. The way the voice said, family, felt heavy, like memory. Rain streaked the window. The car's sensors flickered in the mirrors, scanning side streets. Noah leaned forward, peering past the glass divider. I didn't steal anything, he said, as if the car could judge. I just found them. They were going to die out there. The AI's tone softened. You protected them. That's not stealing. He looked down at Ivy, who was awake now, watching the rain through the half-lidded eyes. They don't even cry at the same time, he said quietly. Guess that's a blessing. The car turned onto a long bridge leading toward the northern skyline. Noah glanced at the glowing display. A new name appeared across the top. Vi Labs. Private Access Gate 4. He froze. Wait, Vi? Like Vale? The Kindred guy? Correct, the voice said. Noah's mind raced. He'd seen the man once on a TV hanging in a diner, some CEO talking about AI that could listen like a friend. He looked like one of those people who'd never seen the kind of places Noah slept. Why would he send for me? Before the voice could answer, a burst of static filled the cabin. A second transmission pushed through, mechanical and harsh. Unregistered vehicle anomaly detected. Route intercept engaged. The car's lights flickered. Noah's stomach knotted. What's that mean? The calm voice returned, firmer now. Please stay still. We are rerouting. Outside, a black SUV pulled into the lane behind them, headlights cutting through the rain. Noah could see silhouettes, two men in gray jackets. The same men, the same polished shoes. Panic slammed through him. They found us. Engaging adaptive path, the car said. Its tires hissed as it veered off the main road, sliding through an access tunnel beneath the bridge. The SUV followed. Hold on, the AI warned. The taxi shot into a narrower lane, barely wide enough. Rain splashed the windshield like static, the reflection of red taillights chasing close behind. Noah held both twins tight, whispering, "It's okay, it's okay," as if he believed it. The SUV's horn blared. A voice over its loudspeaker barked, "Pull over! Vehicle override in progress!" "Override denied," the AI replied through its own speakers. The rear camera feed blinked onto the dashboard. The SUV was closing in. Noah's heart pounded so loud it hurt. "You're supposed to be smart," he shouted. "Can't you lose them?" "Processing," the AI said, tone still steady. "But the safety of minors takes priority. Speed reduced to maintain cabin stability." "Forget stability," Noah yelled. "Just go." The AI paused as if thinking. Then, "You're brave, but bravery without safety is just fear with louder shoes." Noah blinked. "You talk weird." "Learned from my creator," it replied. The SUV swerved closer, bumping the back bumper hard enough to jolt the car. Cyan wailed, Ivy started crying, and Noah's panic turned to something sharper. Anger. He braced himself against the seat. "You said you'd keep us safe. Prove it." The AI's voice shifted. Lower now, almost human. Understood. The car's lights dimmed, then flared white. It braked suddenly, spinning sideways through a puddle of rainwater. The SUV overshot, fishtailing across the slick pavement. For a breathless second, everything went weightless. Then the taxi straightened, pulled hard into a service ramp, and vanished into the shadows beneath an abandoned freight yard. The rain roared louder in the tunnel, echoing off concrete. Noah could still hear his own pulse in his ears. Cyan hiccuped in his arms. Ivy clutched the collar of his jacket with tiny fists. "Are we safe?" he asked. "For now," the voice answered. "We'll arrive soon." "Arrive where?" "Home," it said softly. Noah didn't know what home meant anymore, but the way the voice said it made him want to believe. He slumped back into the seat, shaking. The neon reflection on the glass shifted from red to green, the city lights fading behind them. Across the bay, in the Vale Labs greenhouse, Adrian Vale stood in front of a terminal as an alert flashed across his screen. Kindred Taxi Unit 47, Emergency Repriority. Passenger, child plus infants. Manual override detected. He straightened, eyes narrowing. "Where?" Priya's voice came through his earpiece, urgent. "It's routing back here, to the lab." He exhaled once, slow, steady. "Then clear the south entrance. And Priya, make sure security stands down. Whoever's in that car, we don't scare them." Outside, thunder rolled across the water, deep and final. Back in the cab, Noah closed his eyes. For the first time in 2 days, he wasn't running. But he had no idea he was driving straight toward the man who would change everything. The rain had turned to mist again by the time the taxi crossed the final stretch of Mercer Street. The skyline shimmered through the fog, every light a reflection on slick asphalt. Noah pressed his face to the window, trying to see where they were. Ahead, a tall building rose out of the haze, its glass facade alive with soft light. At the top, a faint green glow pulsed like a heartbeat. The car slowed, tires whispering over wet pavement, and pulled into an underground bay. The gate opened soundlessly. A row of security cameras pivoted to track the car, but none of them looked threatening. It was as if the building itself already knew who was inside. The dashboard flickered. "Arrival confirmed," the voice said. "Destination, Kindred Rooftop Greenhouse." Noah frowned. "Greenhouse? Like plants?" The voice gave a low hum, almost like a chuckle. "You'll see." The car stopped in front of an elevator. The door opened automatically, releasing a breath of warm, citrus-scented air. The moment Noah stepped out, motion sensors came to life, soft lighting tracing a path toward a glass elevator at the far end. "Go ahead," said the voice. "You're expected." "Expected by who?" No answer this time, just the quiet hum of servers behind the walls. He took a breath, hugged the twins closer, and stepped inside the elevator. The doors slid shut. The ascent was silent except for the whisper of rain against glass. As the floor counter climbed past 30, 40, 50, he saw the city stretch beneath him, cranes by the waterfront, fairy lights blinking across the bay, the world moving like it didn't know he existed. The doors opened to a glow of green. The rooftop greenhouse looked like something out of a dream. Rows of tomato vines and hydroponic herbs bathed in golden light, mist curling around glass panes that dripped with rain. In the middle stood a man in a dark gray hoodie, sleeves pushed up, hands stained faintly with soil. His back was to Noah at first, but even from behind he looked steady. The kind of steady you didn't have to ask twice to believe in. When he turned, Noah froze. The man's face was sharp and calm, framed by dark brown hair streaked with elegant gray. His hazel eyes behind minimalist glasses caught the light and held it. He looked like someone who had seen too much loss but still stood tall. Adrian Vale, the man from the news. The man Mrs. Alvarez once called the one who makes machines that care more than people do. For a long second, neither of them spoke. The only sound was the soft drip of rain on glass. Then Adrian's gaze dropped to the crate, to the two tiny faces half hidden beneath the blanket. His breath caught, barely audible. His hand rose halfway, like instinct. "Where did you find them?" Noah stepped back a little, wary. "Doesn't matter. They're safe now." Adrian took a slow step forward, careful not to startle him. "You're right. It does matter, because those girls—" His voice cracked for the first time. "They're my sister's children." Noah blinked. "You mean, they're yours?" He shook his head. "My nieces, my sister Lila, she passed away a few months ago. We thought her babies died with her." The twins stirred as if they knew their names had been spoken. Ivy blinked up at the ceiling. Cyan let out a soft sigh. Adrian crouched to their level, eyes glistening. Then he saw it, the teal knit beanie. It was damp, clinging to the edge of the blanket. The circuit heart stitching shimmered under the grow lights, tiny thread lines tracing a pulse. Adrian reached out slowly, touching the edge of the fabric. His breath left him in a rush. "She called this pattern pulse," he said quietly. Said it was a reminder that every connection begins with rhythm. Noah swallowed hard. "I found it in the crate. Thought it might mean something." "It does," Adrian said. He lifted his gaze, meeting the boy's eyes. "It means my sister trusted someone." The moment hung there, fragile as glass. Adrian straightened, rubbing the back of his neck. "You did something most adults wouldn't. You stayed." Noah's expression hardened, half defensive. "People say that, then they leave anyway." Adrian nodded slowly. "I've heard that too. Sometimes they don't mean to." He walked to the nearby counter, where a small sink and a set of feeding bottles waited. Without another word, he washed his hands, rolled up his sleeves, and moved like someone who'd done this before. He warmed formula in precise motions, tested the temperature, and handed one to Noah. "Here," he said. "Cyan, right? The loud one?" Noah blinked. "How'd you—" "Lucky guess," Adrian said softly. "My sister used to say loud ones are the fighters." As they fed the babies side by side, the room filled with a fragile kind of peace. Adrian studied the boy between glances, his small, stubborn posture, his protective grip, the dirt under his nails. The kid looked like he'd been through a storm and kept walking anyway. After a while, Adrian spoke again, voice low. "You know the car that found you, that was part of a system I built? Kindred OS. It's supposed to find people in distress. I didn't expect it to find you." "So, you're the reason it came?" Adrian hesitated. "Maybe fate and software worked together tonight." Noah gave a faint, skeptical laugh. "Never heard of fate caring about kids like me." Adrian glanced at him. "Then maybe tonight's the first time." For a moment, their eyes met. Something unspoken passed between them. Recognition, maybe, or the slow beginning of trust. But the stillness didn't last. A tablet on the workbench blinked red. Priya's voice crackled through the comm line. "Adrian, we've got movement on the lower levels. Those same contractors, Drake's men, they're posing as city enforcement. ETA 6 minutes. Adrian's calm expression faltered for the first time. He looked at the sleeping twins, then at the boy still clutching the beanie. "It's all right," Noah said quickly. "We can hide again." Adrian shook his head. "No, kid. We don't hide anymore." He turned toward the security console, the light from the screens flickering across his face like distant lightning. "You've done your part, Noah. Now it's my turn." And as alarms began to blink silently in the glass walls around them, the man in the hoodie, once called a visionary, now just an uncle with shaking hands, prepared to face the shadows coming for his family. The greenhouse lights dimmed to amber as a low vibration rippled through the floor. Outside, lightning flashed over the Seattle skyline, streaking the glass with silver veins. The storm had followed them here. Adrian moved fast, his calm precision replacing panic. "Priya," he said into the comm line, voice low but controlled. "How many men?" "4, confirmed," she answered. 2 near the freight elevators, 2 by the north stairwell. They've got forged city IDs and a bogus protective order claiming custody of the twins. Drake's signature? His proxy, she said grimly. They're trying to seize them before the trust hearing tomorrow. If the twins aren't registered as alive before midnight, control stays with the board. Noah looked up, eyes wide. You mean those men? They don't care if the babies... Adrian's jaw flexed. No, they don't care, Taco. And that's why we make sure they don't get within 10 feet of this room. He turned to the boy. You've been running long enough, haven't you? Noah nodded, clutching Ivy against his chest. Feels like my whole life. Then tonight, Adrian said softly, you stop running. The greenhouse air was humid, filled with the scent of tomatoes, rain, and ozone from the storm. Adrian moved to a control panel by the hydroponic tanks, his hoodie sleeves rolled up, fingers flying over the touchscreen. Kindred, he said, voice firm. Lock down all access below floor 50. Restrict entry to authorized staff only. The AI's voice filled the room, gentle but clear. Authorization confirmed, Adrian Vale. Lockdown initiated. A faint mechanical thud echoed as security doors sealed several floors below. Noah watched. Tense but fascinated. You talk to her like she's a person. Adrian gave a faint smile. Sometimes she's the only one who listens. Then he knelt beside the boy, eye level now. You did something extraordinary, Noah. You protected them when no one else could. But if we're going to keep them safe, I need you to help me again. Noah's brow furrowed. How? Adrian handed him the teal beanie. Hold this. Keep it visible. If anything happens, if they get past me, you run toward the elevator at the far end. Kindred will recognize the beanie's pattern. It'll open a safe room. The boy's throat tightened. You sure? Adrian's voice softened. Absolutely. You've earned my trust, Noah. Can you trust me back? Noah hesitated, then nodded. Yeah, I can. He barely noticed how those words seemed to lift something heavy from Adrian's face. Across the city, thunder rolled closer. The first intruder appeared at the far greenhouse door, a tall man with a clipboard and a fake smile. His badge gleamed under the soft light. Evening, the man called. Seattle Welfare Services. We're here for a protective retrieval order on 2 infants. You'll need to hand them over immediately. Adrian didn't move. He stood straight, his expression unreadable. You've got the wrong floor, he said evenly. The man stepped closer, his smile fading. We don't make mistakes. Adrian's tone stayed calm, almost too calm. No, but you forged them. Before the man could reply, the entire greenhouse wall came alive with text. Kindred's doing. The AI projected the contents of his court order onto the glass panes, zooming in on the seal. The rain outside made the forgery glisten. The watermark warped under magnification, revealing layers of copied signatures. Noah gasped. Even he could see it was fake. Adrian folded his arms. This building records everything. You're live to 3 independent legal observers right now. If you take one more step, it'll go public. The man's jaw tightened. You think the press scares us? I think sunlight does, Adrian replied. Another figure entered behind the first, a woman with an earpiece scanning the room. Sir, she said to her partner, this isn't a retrieval. It's a setup. We're on camera. The first man glared. Drake said, but Adrian's voice cut through, sharper now. Drake says a lot of things. Like how my sister's accident was unavoidable. Like how this company needed a firmer hand. His hazel eyes darkened. Funny how his firm hand keeps leaving fingerprints on crimes he doesn't commit. For a heartbeat, everything stilled. Then the greenhouse door creaked open again, and 2 more men entered, less polite this time. The taller one carried a firearm low by his leg. Noah flinched, clutching the babies. Adrian took 1 step forward, putting himself between the boy and the gun. You'll want to rethink that, he said quietly. This room is live streaming to Kindred's ethics hub. You pull that trigger, and every board member, journalist, and prosecutor in this city will know before you blink." The gunman's hand trembled just barely. The AI's voice echoed again, gentle, unwavering. "Unauthorized personnel detected. This is your only warning. Leave peacefully." One of the hydroponic robots stirred at the edge of the room, its camera swiveling toward the intruders. Another followed, their quiet servo motors whirring. To anyone else, they looked harmless, just gardening machines. But tonight, their subtle motion carried weight. The woman with the earpiece took a step back. "We're done," she muttered. "This isn't worth it." Her partner hesitated, then lowered his weapon. The taller man scowled, cursing under his breath. "Drake's not going to like this." Adrian's voice stayed steady. "He'll like jail even less." One by one, the intruders retreated. The door sealed behind them with a mechanical hiss. For a long moment, no one spoke. Only the sound of the rain tapping on glass, softer now, as if the storm had lost interest in fighting. Noah let out a shaky breath. That was close. Adrian turned toward him, smiling faintly. Too close. Then he crouched down, eye level again. "You did exactly what I asked. You stayed calm. You trusted me." Noah managed a small grin. "Guess trust really is a verb." Adrian chuckled, the tension easing from his shoulders. "Yeah, one you just conjugated perfectly." He stood and touched his earpiece. "Priya, status?" "Police en route. Real ones this time," she said. "But, Adrian, Drake's legal team is already filing counterclaims. He's doubling down." Adrian sighed, glancing at the sleeping twins. "Then we'll give him the one thing he can't manipulate, truth." As he said it, thunder rolled again, but softer this time, like an exhale. In the quiet that followed, Ivy stirred and reached a tiny hand toward Adrian's chest, brushing the edge of his hoodie. He looked down, and for the first time in years, something in him melted. Grief, guilt, and hope all folding into one. He whispered, "You're safe now, I promise." And for Noah, standing beside him, that sounded like the first promise an adult might actually keep. Night still pressed heavy against the greenhouse glass when Priya's voice crackled through Adrian's earpiece again. Sharper now, urgent. "Adrian, you need to see this." He turned from the row of hydroponic vines, his jaw still tight from the standoff. "Tell me it's not Drake again." "It's worse," she said. "I traced the shell company that hired those men. It's registered to an offshore consultancy in the Caymans, owned by Ellison Drake Holdings." Adrian's hand stilled over the console. "Of course it is." Priya hesitated. "But that's not all. A judge just received a midnight injunction request. Drake's people filed for emergency seizure of unverified minors posing a biological threat to trust succession." The words hit like ice. Adrian exhaled slowly. "He's calling my sister's children a threat." Noah, who'd been sitting nearby rocking the twins, looked up. "What's he gonna do?" Adrian crouched down beside him. "He's going to try to make sure they never count as family. If he wins that order, the babies disappear into the system, and the board keeps every share that belonged to my sister." Noah's eyes darkened. "So, he's trying to erase them." Adrian nodded once. "Exactly. And he's not the kind of man who stops when someone says no." He stood, rolling up his sleeves. "Priya, forward me everything. Financial trails, signatures, timestamps. If he's pushing this hard, there's something he's hiding." "You think he staged Lila's accident?" "I think I stopped believing in coincidences the day she died." Lightning flickered beyond the glass, reflecting in Adrian's eyes. The room seemed to pulse in time with the storm. He walked to the main interface, fingers flying across the console. Screens lit up with columns of encrypted code, security footage, and account transfers. Noah leaned forward, trying to understand what any of it meant. "What's all that?" "Receipts," Adrian said, "and the knife behind the curtain." On one of the monitors, a video feed popped open. The same two men from earlier, exiting the building and making a call from the alley. Their voices were faint, but clear enough for the AI's transcription module to pick up. Voice 1. Drake wants confirmation. Did Vale see the warrant? Voice 2. He did. He's buying it. He won't risk a public fight tonight. Voice 1. Good. Then tomorrow, before the hearing, we finish it. Quietly. Adrian clenched his fist. They're planning another move before morning. Priya's voice came through again. You can't take this to the press yet. Not without corroboration. Then I'll get corroboration, he said. If they think they can bury truth in paperwork, they've forgotten who built the system that tracks it. He tapped a key, pulling up a map of Seattle's courthouse network. Kindred, he said. Run a scan for all digital filings submitted within the last 2 hours containing the keywords Vale, Trust, or Custody. The AI's voice replied smoothly. Processing. 2 filings match criteria. Both initiated from the same device inside Drake's law offices. Authentication. Falsified. Adrian's lips curved into a grim smile. There's our evidence. He turned back to Noah. You asked earlier if people keep promises. I can't speak for everyone, but I'm keeping this one. For them. He nodded toward the twins. Noah shifted his grip on the crate. What do we do? Adrian studied him for a moment. We go public. But not just with words, with proof. And we'll do it on my terms. He hit another key. The greenhouse's interior lights brightened to daylight intensity. The AI's cameras adjusted. Kindred, Adrian said. Activate transparency mode. Live relay to the Ethics Oversight Hub. Confirming live stream, the AI replied. Viewers online, 42 and climbing. Priya's voice nearly broke through the comm in alarm. Adrian, you're going live without legal counsel? Good, he said quietly. Let them see everything. He turned to Noah. This isn't about shareholders anymore. It's about who tells the story and who gets silenced. Noah frowned. I'm just a kid. No one listens to kids. Adrian's gaze softened. They will if someone stands beside you. He turned back to the console, typing a final command. Kindred, mark all incoming visitors. Any unauthorized entry will automatically trigger live captioning. Confirmed. Within minutes, the greenhouse became a stage of light and quiet tension. Rain streaked the glass, glinting in the glow of the monitors. Adrian's reflection looked older in the window, like a man who'd carried too much truth for too long. Down below, the building's lower floors stirred again. Priya's voice returned, tighter now. They're back. Drake's lawyers this time, and they've brought another fake order. Adrian exhaled. Then let's show the world what corruption looks like up close. He glanced at Noah. You ready? The boy looked terrified and resolute. Yeah, guess I am. Adrian nodded. Stay beside me. Always beside me. Not behind. Got it. As the elevator indicator blinked upward, Adrian's heartbeat steadied. For the first time since his sister's death, he wasn't thinking like a CEO. He was thinking like a brother, and maybe for the first time, a father. The AI dimmed the lights to half brightness, focusing cameras on the door. When the chime rang and the glass panels parted, 3 men stepped in, led by Ellison Drake himself. Drake's hair was silver and perfect, his smile calm in a way only powerful men managed. He carried papers in one hand, arrogance in the other. Adrian, he said smoothly, always working late. I warned you your obsession would ruin you someday. Adrian didn't flinch. You're right, but not tonight. Drake's eyes flicked to the crate, then to Noah. So, these are the assets? Noah stiffened. They're babies, he snapped. Not assets. Drake's lips twitched. How poetic. But everything is an asset when you own enough of it. Adrian stepped forward. You don't own this. Drake smirked. I will soon. You think your theatrics scare me? That camera? You forget who wrote the bylaws that protect me. Adrian smiled faintly. And you forget who designed the system that detects a lie. The lights brightened, the AI's voice smooth as silk. Kindred transparency stream active, it said. Recording live, detecting falsified document metadata. Drake froze. What? The screen behind them projected his own forged signatures line by line, each glowing red. Adrian's voice stayed calm. You've built a career on manipulation, Ellison, but tonight you're outnumbered by the truth and by 2 infants you thought didn't matter. Drake's mask slipped just barely. You can't prove intent. I don't have to, Adrian said. All I have to do is let you keep talking. And for the first time, the man who thought he controlled every outcome looked afraid of his own reflection in the glass. Lightning flashed so bright it turned the glass walls white for a heartbeat. When the light faded, Adrian stood perfectly still, hands in his pockets, watching Ellison Drake realize the trap had already sprung. Behind Adrian, Kindred's translucent interface projected live captions across the greenhouse glass, each of Drake's words translated into plain language. Every euphemism, every protective order reframed in real time. Assets equals infants. Custody equals control. Protection equals erasure. The viewer's count ticked upward on the corner screen, 200, 300, 500. Reporters, board members, regulators, all watching in real time. Drake's smile hardened. You're playing a dangerous game, Adrian. Adrian's tone was calm. The kind you taught me. The older man's eyes narrowed. I built this company. You think a stunt will undo me? You didn't build it, Adrian said quietly. You harvested it. Drake chuckled, low and cold. Still righteous, aren't you? Your sister had the same flaw. Always believed integrity could save anyone. At that, something flickered behind Adrian's composure. Leave her out of this. Why? She's the reason we're here, Drake said, stepping closer. Do you think she died for nothing? You think she didn't know what she was carrying when she went off the grid? The words hung like smoke. Noah, standing near the crate, felt the air change. He whispered, What does he mean? Adrian didn't answer right away. Drake took another step forward, his voice smooth as oil. She was weak, Adrian. She found out what I was doing with the trust fund, how we redirected safety research money into private projects. She tried to stop me, tried to hide her children before the hearing, but she failed. Adrian's face went pale. You caused the crash. Drake didn't deny it. Collateral, he said simply. You can't build power without breaking a few people who get in the way. I told you that when you were 23. The rain outside hammered the glass harder, almost drowning the words. Noah's hands trembled on the crate handle. You killed her? Drake sneered. I corrected her mistake. The AI's soft voice cut in, perfectly even. Statement logged. Self-incriminating phrase detected. I corrected her mistake. Drake froze. Adrian exhaled, slow and steady. You just confessed to negligent homicide on a live feed. Drake spun toward the camera lens, snarling. You think anyone will believe? Kindred overlaid timestamps, geolocation, metadata, and his prior statement from minutes before projected like glowing lines of evidence across the wall. Priya's voice came through Adrian's earpiece. All data archived. The system is syncing to external backups. He can't erase this. Drake's composure cracked fully now. Turn it off! He barked, slamming a hand on the table. Adrian stepped closer, lowering his voice to something almost tender. You taught me everything about systems, Ellison. How to predict people, how to buy silence. But you never taught me how to unlearn conscience. He turned toward the boy. Noah, you still have that note that came with the babies? Noah reached into his pocket and pulled it out carefully, smoothing the wrinkled paper. Yeah. Show it to him, Adrian said. Drake's gaze flicked toward it, and for the first time there was something like fear in his eyes. The note trembled in Noah's small hands as Kindred zoomed in, displaying it on the glass. Keep them safe. Someone will come. Adrian nodded at the AI. Run handwriting analysis. Within seconds, Kindred replied, Match, 97% probability. Author, Lila Vale. Date of origin, day before recorded vehicle crash. Noah blinked, whispering, She wrote it herself. Adrian's voice softened, breaking slightly. She knew. She trusted someone to find them. He looked at Noah. She trusted you. The boy's throat tightened. I just found them. No, Adrian said. You answered her call. Behind them, the elevator chimed again. 2 uniformed officers stepped in, followed by Priya carrying a folder of legal documents. She looked exhausted, but victorious. SPD and state investigators, she said. They saw the feed. They're taking Drake in for questioning. Drake's face drained of color. You'll regret this, Adrian. When the markets open tomorrow, Adrian cut him off quietly. The markets will open to a cleaner company, one that remembers what we're supposed to build. The officers moved in, reading Drake his rights. His polished shoes slipped slightly on the wet tile as they led him toward the elevator. When the doors closed, the tension in the room seemed to collapse all at once. The hum of Kindred's fans replaced the chaos. Adrian exhaled and rubbed his eyes. It's over. Priya shook her head gently. It's starting. You exposed him, but the board will still fight over the trust. Then they can fight, Adrian said, as long as the twins stay protected. He turned toward Noah, who was rocking Ivy gently, trying to calm her. You've done enough running for one lifetime, Adrian said softly. How about staying for a while? Noah looked unsure. Here? Adrian smiled faintly. Here, for tonight at least. We'll figure out the rest tomorrow. He crouched beside him, looking at both babies. They're my family, but you're the one who kept them alive. You matter in this story now. Noah blinked fast, wiping at his face with the sleeve of his hoodie. I didn't do it for anything. I know, Adrian said. That's why it means everything. The rain softened, tapping the glass like applause from a distant world. Priya packed her tablet. The live stream's still trending. People are calling it the greenhouse standoff. You've got thousands of messages already. Adrian gave a weary smile. Let them talk. We've got babies to feed. He reached into the crate, gently adjusting the teal beanie on Ivy's head. The tiny circuit heart glimmered in the light, each stitch reflecting the rhythm of the storm outside. Adrian looked up at Noah again. You did what systems can't, kid. You cared before you were asked. Noah grinned through exhaustion. Guess I'm not that bad at being a grown-up. Adrian chuckled, standing. You're better at it than half this city. For a while, they stood in silence, the soft hum of the AI blending with the sound of steady rain. But beneath the calm, Adrian knew this wasn't the end. Drake's influence ran deep, and tomorrow would bring hearings, custody filings, and public fallout. Still, for the first time since Lila's death, the world didn't feel hollow. It felt alive. And as thunder rumbled one last time, Noah whispered to the sleeping twins, You're safe now. He's got you. Adrian looked toward the boy, then to the teal beanie resting between them. No, he thought. We've got each other. By dawn, the storm had quieted. The greenhouse glowed pale gold under the first hint of sunrise, its glass panes streaked with the silver trails of spent rain. Adrian stood by the window, arms crossed, staring out at the waking city. Down below, the cranes at the waterfront looked frozen mid-step, and the world, for the first time in days, seemed to breathe again. Behind him, Noah sat on a low bench near the heat lamps, a baby in each arm. Cyan snored softly. Ivy chewed on the edge of the towel. The teal beanie rested between them, drying on the corner of the crate. The silence between man and boy was easy now, comfortable, like they'd known each other longer than a single night. Adrian turned from the window and knelt beside him. They like you, he said quietly. Noah grinned sleepily. Yeah, they're kinda stuck with me now. Seems that way, Adrian replied, a ghost of a smile tugging at his mouth, and I don't think they mind. Noah looked up at him, hesitant. What happens now? Like, to them? to us. Adrian took a long breath. He'd been asking himself the same question all night. Now, we start the paperwork, he said. The court will verify everything. Lila's handwriting, the DNA tests. But after that, we make it official. They'll be under protection. No one can take them again. Noah frowned. Protection means the cops? Sometimes, Adrian said, but it can also mean a home, warmth, people who don't leave. Noah's voice came out small. People like that really exist? Adrian looked him straight in the eyes. They're rarer than gold, he said, but they exist. Noah nodded, not fully believing yet, but wanting to. Across the room, Priya entered, holding 2 cups of coffee and a folder thick with printed documents. Her hair was pulled into a bun, her eyes tired but sharp. You're both still here, she said softly. Where else would we go? Adrian asked. She handed him the folder. Drake's already in custody. He's invoking medical confidentiality to stall the confession, but the digital evidence is airtight. And Adrian... He raised an eyebrow. There's a but, she sighed. The board is panicking. They're calling an emergency vote this afternoon. They want you suspended for breach of fiduciary duty, claiming the live stream was a publicity stunt. Adrian chuckled bitterly. Of course they do. They never did like sunlight. You could fight it, she said. You have enough leverage to win. He shook his head. Maybe. But if I win, they'll bury the story of the twins under corporate damage control. If I step down, I can take them out of reach and rebuild kindred without the strings. Priya studied him, then nodded slowly. You're serious? Completely. Noah glanced up from the crate. You're quitting your job, but you're the boss. Adrian smiled faintly. Sometimes the hardest part of being the boss is knowing when to walk away. He took one of the coffees, sat beside the boy, and leaned back against the glass. The city stretched below, awash in light. For a moment, it didn't feel like a company or a crisis. It felt like family, fragile but real. After a long silence, Noah asked, So, what about me? Adrian tilted his head. What about you? I mean, I can't just disappear, and I can't go back to the streets. They'll say I made it up or took them or something. Adrian's expression softened. You're right. You deserve better than disappearing. He stood, went to his desk, and returned with a laminated ID badge and a small envelope. This is temporary, he said, handing them over. But it's something. The badge read, Noah Reyes, Safety Fellow, Kindred, OS, Urban Youth Advisor. Noah stared at it, mouth open. You're kidding. I don't kid, Adrian said, though there was a warmth behind his voice. You've seen what others ignore. You know how to listen, how to stay when everyone else runs. That's what Kindred's supposed to stand for. If you're willing, I want you to help us make it real. Noah blinked hard. You mean, like a job? Like purpose, Adrian said. A room upstairs, meals, schooling, therapy, whatever you need. But you'll be here, with us, if you want that. Noah looked down at the badge again, tracing the letters. You're really serious? Adrian nodded. Completely. The boy smiled slowly. Then I guess I'm in. Behind them, the AI's voice chimed softly. Registration complete? Welcome, Noah Reyes. He laughed, an unguarded, pure laugh that startled even him. Cyan squirmed in his arms and squealed back as if she understood. Adrian leaned forward, elbows on his knees. See? You've already got fans. Noah grinned wider. Guess I do. Priya cleared her throat gently, but there was warmth in her eyes. I'll finalize the paperwork and arrange temporary guardianship with the court. And Adrian, he looked up. You're doing the right thing. He gave a half smile. That's what scares me. The sound of rain began again, soft and steady, the kind that made the city glow. Adrian stood, watching it trace slow lines down the glass. Priya, one more favor, he said quietly. Anything. Have the court record note that my sister's final act wasn't loss. It was love, passed through a boy with a sketchbook and a teal beanie. Priya swallowed, blinking back tears. "I'll make sure of it." When she left, Adrian turned back to Noah. The boy was holding the babies close, humming under his breath, a tune that didn't belong to anyone, but sounded like home. "You know," Adrian said, "you might have just saved a lot more than 2 lives." Noah looked up. "What do you mean?" He smiled. "You reminded me why we built Kindred in the first place. Not for profit, for connection." The boy shrugged, shy but proud. "Guess it worked." Adrian reached out and ruffled his hair. "Yeah, kid. Guess it did." Outside, the sky cleared just enough to show the faintest streak of blue, the same color as the beanie drying on the crate. And somewhere far below, the city began to move again, unaware that on a rooftop above it, family had just been rewritten. By afternoon, the rain had finally stopped. Sunlight pooled through the greenhouse roof, turning every droplet on the glass into fire. The storm that had wrapped the city all night had broken, and with it, so had the silence that hung over Adrian Vale's life. The twins slept in their crate beside a row of basil plants, faint smiles on their tiny faces. The teal beanie dried clean now, its embroidered circuit heart bright under the light. Noah sat cross-legged near them, sketching quietly on a fresh notepad Priya had given him. He was drawing the view, the skyline, the glass roof, the soft hum of the world finally slowing down. Adrian stood nearby, watching him. For once he wasn't looking at a screen or a report, just a boy who had survived what no one should, keeping 2 fragile hearts alive through courage no system could calculate. "How do you do that?" Adrian asked after a while. Noah looked up. "Do what?" "Draw, like you already know how the world feels." Noah shrugged. "You listen long enough, it tells you." Adrian smiled faintly. "That's exactly what Kindred was supposed to do. Listen." He walked over to the console near the vines and tapped a few keys. On the monitor, the live feed from the night before replayed. Silent now, but the images were enough. Drake's admission, the babies in the crate, Noah standing between power and innocence. The clip had gone viral overnight. The world was watching. Priya entered quietly, tablet in hand, her face brighter than it had been in days. "We have confirmation," she said. "The court's ruling came through early. The twins are recognized as Lila Vale's legal heirs. Full protection order granted. Drake's assets frozen pending investigation." Adrian exhaled, leaning against the table. "That's it then?" Priya nodded. "That's it." Noah's eyes flicked between them. "So, no one can take them now?" "Not without going through us," Priya said, smiling. Adrian looked at her. "And the company?" She hesitated, then handed him another file. "The board accepted your resignation, effective immediately." Adrian stared at the paper for a long moment. His name, printed under Founder and Chief Executive Officer, now followed by a single word. Resigned. He set the file down gently. "It's strange," he said quietly. "You spend a decade building something you think will last forever, and then one night reminds you forever's not the goal." "What is?" Priya asked. "Doing the right thing before it's too late." Priya's smile was small but proud. "You already did." She left the room, closing the glass door behind her. The light shifted again, softer now, and Adrian turned toward Noah. The boy had stopped drawing. He was watching him carefully, as if studying every move. "You really quit," Noah said. "I really did. Doesn't that make you sad?" Adrian thought for a moment. "It makes me free to. And that's something I forgot how to feel." He walked to the greenhouse sink and began washing his hands, then reached for the formula bottles. "You know," he said, "I used to think leadership meant control, but last night you showed me it's something else." "What?" Noah asked. "Care," Adrian said simply. "It's harder, but it lasts longer." Noah smiled a little, setting his pencil down. "Guess we both learned something." Adrian chuckled. "Guess we did. Few minutes later, Priya returned holding 2 visitors' badges. Social services just called. They'll arrive shortly to verify the twins' well-being. You'll both need to give statements. Noah tensed. Statements? It's okay, Adrian said gently. You tell the truth, the whole thing. You're not in trouble, Noah. You're part of the record. The boy nodded slowly. Okay, as long as they don't split us up. Adrian looked at him, startled. Split us up? Noah shrugged. Happens a lot. They say they'll call or visit or check in. Then you wait and wait. Then they don't. Adrian's throat tightened. He knelt down, meeting the boy's eyes. Hey, listen to me. You're not going anywhere I'm not. Noah blinked. You mean it? I mean it, Adrian said. People take. I keep. The words hung in the warm air, soft as the hum of the lights. For a moment, Noah couldn't speak. He just nodded, biting the inside of his lip to keep it steady. The elevator chimed, and 2 officers stepped in, this time in plain clothes, gentle-eyed, holding clipboards. They introduced themselves softly, avoiding the sterile tone of bureaucrats. Mr. Vale, one said, we've seen the footage. You did the city a service last night. Adrian nodded. All we did was survive. The woman officer smiled at Noah. You must be the artist. He blinked. How'd you know? She gestured toward the sketchpad in his lap. You draw the truth. It's right there. Noah grinned shyly. The officers asked a few questions, checked the twins' vitals, signed off their report, and left quietly. When the elevator doors closed again, the greenhouse felt lighter, as if the city itself had exhaled. Adrian sank into a chair, elbows on his knees. It's over, he said softly. Noah looked down at the twins. Maybe for now. Adrian smiled. You're right. There's still the future to figure out. He pulled the teal beanie closer, setting it on the table between them. The embroidered circuit heart gleamed in the morning sun. This stays with us, he said. A reminder of how connection works, one pulse at a time. Noah nodded, touching the beanie gently. I think she'd like that. She would, Adrian said, his voice quiet, certain. For a long time they sat together in silence, sunlight filling the glass room, Seattle waking below. It was the first peaceful day either of them had had in months, maybe years. Adrian reached for his coffee, lukewarm now, and smiled faintly. Noah, he said. Yeah? After all this, what do you want? The boy thought hard, then looked out the window. A place where I don't have to listen for footsteps. Adrian nodded slowly. Then that's what we'll build. Outside, gulls cut across the sky, their wings flashing white against the blue, sir. The storm had passed, but the rhythm of rain still lingered in memory, and somewhere in the hum of kindred servers, a single line of code pulsed faintly, as if echoing the teal beanie's tiny heart. Connection sustained. Adrian smiled to himself. For the first time in years, it didn't sound like data. It sounded like life. The sun was high now, washing the greenhouse in soft gold. The rain-slick glass gleamed like crystal, and the world outside felt new, rinsed clean. The vines shimmered with dew, the air thick with the scent of tomato leaves and morning. Adrian stood at the wide glass railing, his hoodie sleeves pushed up, eyes fixed on the horizon. For the first time in years, he wasn't thinking about quarterly reports or market forecasts. He was thinking about people, about family, about how fragile hope looked until someone decided to hold on. Behind him, Noah rocked the twins in their crate, humming under his breath, a tune he'd made up, part lullaby, part secret promise. Cyan squirmed. Ivy smiled in her sleep, one tiny fist clutching the edge of the teal beanie that now lay between them like an heirloom. Adrian turned. The sight stopped him cold. 2 lives safe, a boy who shouldn't have had to grow up so fast, and yet somehow had more grace than anyone he'd ever met. You've got a good singing voice, Adrian said. Noah shrugged. They like noise. It means they're not alone. Adrian smiled faintly. I think they already know they're not. The elevator chimed softly, and Priya stepped out carrying 2 envelopes. "Morning," she said. "I've got news. Good kind." Adrian gestured toward the bench. "Let's hear it." She handed him the first envelope. "From the court. The guardianship's official. Temporary custody transferred to you pending full adoption review. You'll be their legal guardian until the hearing." Adrian's hands trembled just slightly as he opened it. The document was stamped and signed, the ink still fresh. The words, "Guardianship of Cyan Vale and Ivy Vale," leapt off the page like sunlight breaking through clouds. He exhaled slowly, shoulders relaxing for the first time in what felt like a lifetime. "Lila," he whispered under his breath, "I kept my promise." Priya's voice was soft. "And the second envelope's for him." She nodded toward Noah. The boy blinked, surprised. "For me?" Priya smiled, handing it over. Inside was a small, official-looking ID card, glinting under the light. "Noah Reyes, Kindred OS Safety Fellow. Permanent appointment." Noah stared at it like it might vanish if he blinked. "Permanent? Like a real job?" Adrian grinned. "Real job, real pay, real home. You've got a studio apartment 2 floors down with a skylight. Priya made sure the bed faces east." The boy's throat tightened. "You mean I can stay here? Like, for good?" Adrian crouched to eye level. "For as long as you want. You saved my family, Noah. You are family." Noah's eyes glistened, but he looked away quickly, pretending to study the twins. "You really mean that?" Adrian nodded. "You've earned more than words. You've earned a place." Priya smiled gently, glancing at her watch. "I'll handle the press conference downstairs. People are still waiting to hear your statement, Adrian. The story's everywhere. The boy, the basket, and the CEO in a hoodie." Adrian chuckled softly. "Catchy." Noah grinned. "They make it sound like a fairy tale." Adrian met his eyes. "Maybe it is. One where the hero's 8 years old and draws better than he runs." Noah laughed. "I do run pretty bad." "Yeah," Adrian said, "but you never stopped." Priya excused herself, leaving them in the soft hum of the greenhouse. For a while, neither spoke. The twins shifted in their sleep, tiny sounds of life filling the air. Adrian sat beside Noah, resting his elbows on his knees. "You know, I used to think intelligence was everything. Build something smarter than us, faster than us, and maybe it'll fix what we break." "And now?" Noah asked. Adrian smiled faintly. "Now I think kindness does the real heavy lifting." Noah considered that, then nodded. "Machines can help, but they can't care first." "Exactly," Adrian said. "And that's why I need you here. You remind me what the code's supposed to mean." He looked at the twins again. "Cyan and Ivy will grow up in a world that sees their faces before their names, their hearts before their worth. That's the world we're going to build." Noah tilted his head. "That's a big job." "Good thing we've got time," Adrian said. The boy smiled shyly. "Guess we do." Outside, the city shimmered awake, sunlight catching on glass towers, the sea stretching out like molten gold. The chaos of the past 24 hours already felt like another lifetime. Adrian stood, running a hand through his hair. "Come on," he said. "Let's get breakfast before the next news cycle eats us alive." Noah carefully placed the teal beanie on Ivy's chest, the tiny circuit heart glowing faintly in the sun. "She should keep it," he said. "She will," Adrian replied. "It's hers now, and yours too." They walked toward the elevator together. Noah pushed the cart, Adrian steadying the crate. At the door, Adrian paused and looked back at the greenhouse, the place where truth had been spoken, where loss had turned into something whole again. He whispered, "Thank you, Lila," so quietly only the plants could hear. The elevator doors closed, the hum of machinery soft and steady as a heartbeat. When they reached the ground floor, reporters waited behind a velvet rope, cameras poised. Flashbulbs reflected off the glass as Adrian stepped forward, still wearing the same gray hoodie. Noah stood at his side, the twins safe in the cart between them. A journalist shouted, "Mr. Vale, do you have a statement for the public?" Adrian paused, then said simply, "Kindred was built to listen. But last night, a child taught me what listening truly means. These girls are alive because someone cared before the world did. That's what we'll be now, a company that remembers its heart." He glanced at Noah. "And this young man reminded me that family doesn't always begin with blood. It begins with choice." The crowd fell silent. As he turned to go, a small voice rose from the reporters, one that sounded like it came from nowhere and everywhere at once. "Mr. Vale, what happens next?" Adrian smiled gently, looking down at Noah. The boy shrugged with a grin. "Guess we build something that keeps people safe, and makes them feel kept, too." The cameras clicked. The crowd murmured. And somewhere high above, sunlight pierced the last cloud, a beam striking the greenhouse roof where the teal beanie still lay, its circuit heart glinting like a promise fulfilled. Inside, the Kindred servers hummed to life, a new message appearing across the central terminal in quiet blue text. "Pulse registered. Family connection complete." Adrian and Noah walked out into the light together. No one said a word, but the city itself seemed to understand.